Welcome to the Space Marketing Podcast, where we look at marketing principles, strategies, and tactics through the lens of space. Information relating to our discussion today and links to the video version can be found on the episode show notes. You can find them on spacemarketingpodcast.com. Please like and follow this podcast. It will help us get the word out about all the great things in space. In 2018, the sports industry in just the North American area was worth 71 billion US dollars in revenue. The global entertainment industry is worth a whopping $2 trillion. It is a mega industry that is primed to go beyond the Earth's gravity. Sports builds skills, health, and relationships. It provides celebrations and interactions that are positive and uplifting. Space settlements and exploration will need these events to have happy astronauts and explorers. My next guest is one that I met at the Space Tourism Conference last year. She is one of the speakers at this year's conference. Linda Rheinstein is founder of the Space Sports Federation, that is the first governing and sanctioning body for competitive sports played in zero or microgravity.
We are Space Games Federation, the first and only international governing and sanctioning body for competitive sports played in zero or microgravity. That is, space. Blast off with us into equal space, where all are welcome, where the absence of gravity breaks every boundary, and where Astrolete fans and sponsors will create the sports of tomorrow, today. Founder Linda Rheinstein and her team bring a wealth of experience in live sports and entertainment, broadcasting, technology, aerospace, finance, education, and real imagination. Our mission is to educate, entertain, and engage, and with the help of NASA, private space ventures, and the corporate world, we are creating equal playing fields from parabolic planes to the space station, the moon to asteroids, Mars, and beyond. And everyone's in. Our first Equal Space Challenge for Ideas for New Sports has been amazing, with everyone from middle schoolers to astronauts, sports pros to everyday fans, and space buffs stepping up. And there's more to come. The games begin with you, so be a part of history.
Are we ever going to see the Earth from a different perspective? You betcha.
Be a part of creating the next generation of sports, and together we'll level the playing fields today for the tomorrows to come.
It's a civilization. Look what we're capable of doing. Curiosity is the essence of human existence. We need to know. We need to discover. And the only way we can do is stick our neck out a little bit and find out.
Hey, Linda, how are you doing today? Welcome to the podcast.
Izzy, hello. So nice to see you. And thank you so much for having me on your podcast.
Oh, it is my pleasure. We had such a great time speaking last year that when I found out that you were one of the speakers, I'm like, oh, I have to have her on the podcast. What she's doing is so interesting.
And I was so excited to be on it. How's that?
Very good. Start off with a question. You have a very unique perspective on spaceflight. Tell us how you fell in love with space.
I'm going to say, as a child, basically, I grew up with space. My father is my true inspiration, Izzy. His name was Fred Rheinstein, and he did every space shot between Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo. And in those days, there were no cell phones or FaceTime or anything. So the gift and the curse, as my mother said, was that we flew everywhere with my dad. So when there were space shots or things like that happening, it's like, I think why I'm a proponent of experiential education right now, because my entire education in space and sports was experiential with my father. You know, so I was so young that it was like, wow, I have been fearless of it forever too. I mean, it doesn't, sadly, when Apollo 1 went down, I felt it with great, I felt it like the kids today, I think, felt the shootings, you know, when the first ever shooting happened. I was just crushed because I knew those men, and I had a crush on a couple of them. I mean, I was a young teenage girl then. It's like, oh, let's turn on. So, I mean, the true passion, as I brought it forward into the reality of what are we in the 21st century, Gene Cernan was somewhat of a mentor to me.
Oh, very good.
And I used to call him Uncle Gene, and his daughter was a little younger than I was, and I used to babysit her. When we go to space flights and stuff, babysit, no, we were all like child play, it's like today we call it a play date, there we call it a babysitting date. But so long and short of it is, Uncle Gene, I would go with my father whenever he would be doing a news event, which was every space flight. And as young children, we were kind of bored. So
Wow. I was going to say, that's pretty.
Okay, so, but think about it, 10, 11, 12, you're on Space Coast, you can go swimming. There are airplanes that you can run in and out of and play in. And oh, there's a space capsule I can play in too. Oh, I'm not supposed to play in that. Oops, that caused some problem. That's a story for another time. I think the inspiration came all together with space games, because growing up in space and then finding my career in sports, the similarities were amazing. Competition, highly trained, best of your profession, way smarter than you think you are. The similarities were so vibrant, I guess, to me, that it didn't. And then I think the aha moment was Hidden Figures, when I was watching the movie and I figured it all out. I didn't figure it all out. Okay, I'm lying. But there's a point where she runs to, the computer room. And as a child, my father used to have me run to computer to pick up the stats for NBC News. Back to experiential learning, I had to literally run across whatever, where we were at Langley or wherever we were, and pick up from computer the stats. And they gave out cookies. So computer to me gave out cookies.
That's a good incentive for sure.
Right? I mean, if I go back to the whole kid thing and the boredom, and back to, you asked for the inspiration, and I'm sorry it took a long way to get. But there was a quote that Uncle Gene used, that my father used, that I used, that has stuck with me, which is, the more dreamers you have, the more doers you have. And if myself or anybody else in the child network that was hanging around them, so what do you, where are we going, and how come you're working so hard, and blah blah, and he would look at us and go, so what are you dreaming about? We'd say, oh, whatever it was. And he goes, so what are you doing about it? And it was like, oh,
you got to do something about it.
You mean I can't just fly the jet because I want to?
No.
But again, this is a childhood dream. So long and short of it is, not short, but
dreams with a plan can turn into reality.
Yes, and sports is full of dreamers.
Yes.
And full of doers. So, that became where my career, really excelled, and being able to dream and being somewhat of a futurist in sports, and doing technology and working with things like, the team that did the 1st and 10 down line, and the glowing hockey puck, and the ump cam and catcher cam. And the funniest thing in the world is, I've never been a fan of sports. I have respected sports. And I think there's a huge difference, because I learned that with the astronauts, or as we now call them, the Astrolete. Okay. So
I love that term, by the way.
Okay. All astronauts are Astrolates, or you can go through the space games and become an Astrolete. So already we have 590 Astrolates, because all the astronauts just get a new title. They're Astrolates in perpetuity. A registered trademark, by the way.
Okay. Well, let's get some more. So now, what sports did you play when you were growing up?
I was a figure skater. I was like, yeah, we got that to be a sport. I forgot.
Yeah, it definitely is one for sure.
But here's the funny thing. I was a figure skater. I did very well. There was a lady named an Olympic skater named Linda Fratiani that skated around the same time that I did, and we both were Lindas. And then there was another Linda, so it was a Linda contingency. And two of us Lindas dropped out. One, me being at 16, I found what a driver's license was, and that was that. Um,
Yes. Yes, that kills a lot of budding aspirations.
mm. Respect though of sports. Always worked around it. Huge respect. Figure skater, great, knew the training and also knew what I gave up at 16 and can look back and know how hard it is to be that age and stick with it.
Yes.
People don't understand it. That's a decision. That is a real life decision, and kids make it so young. Sorry, but that's why Space Games Federation is, the international organizing and sanctioning body for competitions played in zero microgravity, the Olympics of space. Giving kids another moonshot. Is that is that the latest word for it? But I want to, I was the moonshot generation, and I just want to give them hope.
Yeah, me too. That's part of the reason that I do what I do is because too many things, too many people, both adults and children, they don't have any juice to get up
Right?
in the morning, and they go through a life that's gray, and space is one of those things that can give you juice. It can
Oh,
open up
oh,
your dreams and inspire you to it changes school, it changes lives.
you just sent shivers up my spine because I'm a perfect example of it. And so are a lot of kids in the media with me. There's a young man named David Neal. His father was Roy Neal, and he was the voice of space for NBC News. And he and my dad worked together. And David Neal now basically he works in sports, and he went to the career of sports, and he was executive over at NBC, and now he's an executive at Fox Sports and is responsible for World Cups and all the big stuff and for Olympics. And, so it's a really fascinating. And the two of us are always talking about how space was inspirational, and we both gravitated to sports because it was almost a similar kind of mindset.
Mhm.
These
Absolutely.
guys get on the field and you get into a spacecraft, and I don't care what's going on the outside. You better be focused. I don't care if Elon is driving your car.
Yes. Yes.
Things still go wrong in space.
Well, and it's
Um,
adrenaline rush,
oh,
if nothing else. I mean, like race car drivers, which are many have to be very physically fit because you're just going through such an adrenaline rush that it's important for your health.
oh gosh. Oh, well, there's a doctor. Oh, forgive me. I don't have his name in front of me, but long ago there was a gentleman at NASA that did a paper about how sports is going to be needed because competition is needed as we do long-term space travel, as we do things on station. It's
It's
space
fun.
games. It is, and it's so funny you say that because we've been on this delicate fine line between being entertainment and education. You were talking about space tourism. We have space athletics, so we also combine education. We call it STEM edutainment in space. So
Edutainment. Oh, I like that.
yeah, and so we've tried to coin the term that we've been cleared with, oh, we have something fun for the space tourism conference. But one of our sports that won is cleared by NASA from an education standpoint, but has to be controlled to a bubble that it won't let the experiential side and the fun part happen, because as you well know, funding for NASA, people hear fun and they're like, what? My money's going for fun.
Well,
Uh,
the thing is let's go out to Mars for a minute. And if we get on the right trajectory, it'll take about 6 months. So if you have a bunch of people locked in a small space for 6 months and you do not have any fun, they're not going to be happy astronauts. You have to have something, and they need exercise anyway. So why not make it a game
Well,
and
or a competition.
or a competition?
We can take so long and short of it is that yes, we've been playing with NASA for a while now, and are very grateful for Axiom and Mr. Suffredini coming on board. I was Seth was one of the first people we pitched this 2 years ago at NASA. So what he's doing with Axiom, I have known for years, and so I think there's a perfect example of space tourism and something that we will hopefully be able to apply to his habitat.
Mhm.
But let's talk space tourism, because you and I get to go back to Space Tourism Conference, which was really kind of interesting and enlightening and fun. I'm sorry, we were having fun.
Oh, you know what? And I got to tell you, I was so surprised when I went last year, and there's a lot of things that I experienced last year that I brought back with me. For example, I have never had so many interesting and excited and synergistic conversations at any event I've ever been to. And it was, I mean, I was completely talked out by the time that I was done with the conference because
And don't take me wrong, you come from the politics world, so to be talked out.
well, it was just the most synergistic conversations I have ever had. So when I got back, I created a roundtable in Kentucky that brought the space people together, because when you have a conversation with a regular person, you know the look, it's kind of a blank look, and even if they're kind of interested, they really can't offer anything in the conversation to take it to the next level. But these were all people that it was like, yes, and we can do this, and oh, yes, and we can do that. And it kept climbing, and just the ideas were flowing. I had such an amazing time at that conference last year. And
Well,
I can't wait to go back.
I can't either. And the I actually, John Spencer, one of the founders of the conference, he was one of the first people I went to talk about Space Games Federation, 9 years ago now. So because of his Mars World,
Well,
right? And so, and also something interesting, the synergies of space tourism. John has his of sailing in space,
yes.
and basically so much of astronaut and astrolete training is done and will be done in pools, neutral buoyancy labs. I mean, we've tested some of our stuff out in a pool. That's part of, we have to explain to people, like you're saying. You said you have this great thing in Kentucky, you bring I was in an Uber in New York City, and there was a young man telling me there was no space station above us as we were driving. I
Oh,
couldn't even tell you how heartsick I was. So yeah, I think what you're doing in Kentucky and reaching out, and if I can ever be of help, please let me know.
yeah. I mean, the books and everything that I do is to be the bullhorn and to teach other people how to be a bullhorn, and and shout the
You're right, because it's the marketing, right? I
it is.
mean,
Yes.
you're talking about the marketing, and one of the things is people ask me how I have marketed, and honestly, it's all grassroots. I have not stopped since hour one. We don't not go to a conference. We don't not speak to somebody. Everybody is important. Hence we had the Equal Space Challenge, because diversity is key to me. It's I can't even, being a woman in sports and being one of 84 on a sporting team when I'm out and about, and it's a whole different passion point for me to make sure that there is an equality of sports and space. And the owners of the teams must be very diversified in the first starting point. So that all being said, back to Space Tourism Conference, which we do love, we announced our 5 winners. And
This next time you come up, you're going to announce winners?
We did it. We actually, the Wall Street Journal found us on an info only, because this lovely lady named Jen Murphy she's into medical, physical health benefits, and she was looking how that was going to happen in space, and she decided it was sports.
Hold on to your boosters. We will be right back with guest Linda Rheinstein to talk about space sport initiatives that are developing after a brief message from our sponsors.
So she wrote the article. We had just announced our 5 winners, and so now what we're doing is you can check on the website. We have 5 winners. They are Space Dodgeball, Shooting Star, Spaceball, and Zero Gordian.
Okay, very cool.
And Zero Gordian I leave to the last, because that's the one, even though it sounds crazy, but that's the one we're going to start to play first. And and there's a why. Knots in space are hard, because zero gravity gives you nothing to hold on to make a knot, so it's going around. Knots in 3D animations are hard. It's the hardest thing to simulate. Now, my other world is special effects and graphics. So part of what we're doing is simulating each of these 5 winners in 3D animations and stuff to find out which one will play the best. And more importantly, as you well know, safety.
Right. Safety is number one. Yes.
It's like, so what we've learned with our time with NASA and the other space companies is that ball games we can play when we have our own little capsule, and if they clean out the Bigelow, we can play in that space, but it can't be around right now. It can't be around a very tight space. There's like this much room in the International Space Station. They're overflowing, so Axiom's coming on board. We can play in the parabolic arc plane, which we love, and part of that is that we're desperate to make sure that we're eco-friendly, so we're trying to find the right carbon offsets to do that. So one of the things, as I mentioned, is we want to make sure that the policy for sports and space takes into account, like, we have to do this. If you're gonna I promised Uncle Gene that but I promised Mr. Cernan, I called him and I told him, he was the first person after my father I called and talked to. And I said, Uncle Gene, sports and space. He goes, we already do it. I go, no, for competition, organize it like the NFL, like F1, like, my dad did. And he's like, sounds great. I go, awesome. So will you help us? And he goes, well, I'm dying and I have to finish my movie. And I said, you're such an astronaut. He literally said it like that to me. I go, so hang on, let me calm down just a second. He goes, well, you're going to be at my funeral, so you'll meet Charlie Bolden there. And I'm like, oh God, they are astronauts. And that was a perfect example to me also, that as a cancer survivor, this idea came to me as fruition after I beat the cancer. And Uncle Gene was the person I called when I came up with the idea and said, can't do work for hire anymore. I need to do something for the world. And I felt that, the equality that zero gravity brings you is everybody's exactly the same. Nobody has to argue about it. We're all exactly the same. We all float. It's how you move that mass that you float with. Some of the big guys you think could move it well, where they're going to knock their heads to death. Some of the smaller astrolets and some of the gymnasts and the figure skaters it's going to be like dancing with the stars in space, playing a sport essentially. So back to why we picked Zero Gordian. Knots in space are hard. So we're going to start terrestrial at the Space Tourism Conference and see how fast people can tie a knot in a minute in normal gravity.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I mean, unless you're really either a sailor or a Boy Scout, Girl Scout, not tying, I didn't realize that either until, we had expert judges take these 5 in, okay, and we went through it, and knot tying was like, okay, well, it passes. The most important thing, it passed safety, because a piece of rope in space is not going to hurt anything. In fact, you stow a lot of rope to do things in space, and basically you can take cords of any kind and have a competition. Even if there's no light in the spacecraft, you could still do it. And back to the STEM edutainment, part of my passion as well is during pandemic, we had we rolled out the space athletics program, sort of kind of in a virtual pandemic way. We're reshaping it and going to roll it out in a proper way, but it gave us the beta for it. And we had 84 kids and had a CTE course out of Florida, and it's very successful.
It's going to be the first one.
The part of the rope is the physics that they're learning experientially. So we taught them this software called Unreal and Blender. I'm not promoting anything, but they're 2 softwares that are free that a lot of people use, and they're for the gaming engines. And the minute you say they're for the gaming engine, I got 100 kids. It was so easy. Like, I can learn to make gaming stuff. Yeah. And then what you're going to have to do is take that gaming stuff, and you're going to have to turn off gravity and play me that game in 0 gravity and tell me why it works. And even though the computer can turn off the gravity, it doesn't mean it's smart enough as artificial intelligence yet to show you what it can do. You have to be able to control it. You have to be able to understand a certain amount of physics. And if our kids don't understand physics, they don't understand how the space station sits up there, and they don't understand they can play sports in space and do anyway. That's our STEM edutainment part, is that,
and that's problem solving, which is so important for everybody to, there's not enough problem solving puzzles out there to develop that part of their brain. So it entertains, it competes, and it problem solves. It develops problem solving skills.
And it takes a skill that, I was looking for it. There are so many knot enthusiasts, I couldn't believe it, including my cousin, who's already like picking apart the knots we've chosen to play at the Space Tourism Conference. It's like, oh, wait, hang on. He goes, oh, no, you can't tie that knot. I'm like, well, ChatGPT says I can.
Well, one of the exciting things that's getting ready to happen is that UK-based Space Entertainment Enterprises, or SEE, is working with Axiom to put a leg up on the ISS that they're going to be using for sporting events and TV shows and movies. So it's coming. Being able to do it up there.
Okay, so think of us as we're talking to those folks. In fact, the Space Hero folks and those are folks, they're my playing field. I'm their client. So I'm in so many business development plans for all these space stations because I'm a revenue source. Because as the international organizing and sanctioning body, what our thing will be doing is the first team in the first sport is Zero Gordian. We have 4 others. We're literally simulating and organizing, and it goes along. So you're right on track, hence we went to the space station to play on the space station and be one of the first ones to play up there. And hence was the problem. It's so tight now.
Yes, you can see that.
It just doesn't make sense. And just like you're saying, Axiom's going up. And we're also going to play in capsule. So we're talking about playing in capsule with all the space people. And so we're a client. So they're my playing field. So I go to the guys that's putting up you said that right. I just know them as the heroes out of the UK.
Space Entertainment Enterprise. And they're Tom Cruise is going to be filming them. I think he already filmed with the Russians, but he will be filming in this particular habitat. And then, of course, they're going to go for space.
It's a studio. And my other iteration of life, My family owned a post-production company and a studio company and the rights to NASCAR and Formula One. So in our lifetime, and actually did a few Mission Impossible films with the special effects.
Oh,
So
cool.
essentially, what you're talking about when when the guys at the Hero, because I was on a panel with them a few months ago on something else, and we're like, yeah, how are we getting up there? When are we getting up there? How much? When are we playing? What can we do? It's great when you talk about it, but it's got to happen.
Well,
And
they're talking about late 2024. So
no, I agreed. And we talk about lots of things for late whatever. And
mhm.
so I look at that as exactly what the inspiration is needed for my cab driver.
Yes.
So I think you're completely right on. But in order to, I'm going to pun it here, I'm sorry, tie it to reality.
Very good fun.
In real life, we start tying right now, and after we do the space tourism conference for the fall semester in schools, we will have a competition for kids to tie knots to see how fast they can tie it in their classes for rewards and opportunity in space.
Well,
Whether
and it can be done the beauty of it is it can be done in class. It can be done in the pool. So you have kind of a weightless
Oh,
on
absolutely. The
Terra.
swimming team can do it, compete against the gymnast team, against the rheumatic gymnasts. And excuse me.
And then you can go into parabolic flights, which just for those that don't know what that is, it's an airplane that has a particular flight pattern that gives you a weightless atmosphere for about a minute each time, and they go through several minutes. So it can transition to that, and you can tie knots in there because you can tie knot in a minute. That can be part of the competition. So it's a beautiful competition, by the way, that it doesn't matter. It's all about the brain.
Exactly. And it's training the brain. And in my past life, I was married, and he came with an autistic child who was amazing. And the divorce was fine. I missed the kid. And so during that time, one of the things during diagnosis was they were having him tie his shoes and see how he tied his shoes.
Oh,
And I was like, what is this about? So we can tell what side of his brain is functioning better. I went,
okay.
oh my goodness. So it really, like you're saying, you've just said it ties the brain, and oh God, puns, tons of puns. I mean,
Tons
I
of
mean,
puns.
tons of puns. But back to also, these missions that we're going to send humans to Mars on are long. They
Yes.
can tie knots with the rest of the world down here, compete against your fellows up in space. Back to my Uber driver who was like, okay, here, we're going to play Zero Gordian right now while we're right here in the cab. Okay, stop.
And the thing is that you can start off with simple knots, and the knots can get more and more complicated. And by the time that they're done with the competition, they know how to do a knot. So if they ever need that in a situation, they have that in their arsenal. So, and it's like, and the knots can just get more and more complicated. It's like a Rubik's Cube on steroids. It can end up being.
And then back to our studio up there, part 2 is you tie 2 people to the end of the rope and you make them try and tie the knot together. And we do teamwork and
Oh,
see how that goes. Okay. Now that comes from my sporting time, about, race car driving and teamwork, because we got to make sure that we weave in teamwork.
oh, that would be so interesting to watch. I mean,
Well, good. I'm glad, because that's what our studio is. Hopefully that's what we're going to do up there, and people will want to watch and participate.
yeah,
I
it's just
mean,
it's beautiful.
we can be down here tying knots. I mean, I can be on the phone with you, and I don't know how many of my little kids are doing stuff like this when they're talking to me on the phone. They're playing with something.
Yeah, I mean, we have to do something. I just hardly can sit in one place and just do one thing. So, but yeah, I mean, it's something that I never would have thought of, and it is beautifully built for that.
And
So
guess what? There's a science teacher who came up with it, a 60-year-old science teacher. He's the oldest person. Everybody else is under 17. They came up with the 4 other games, all the ball games. But this man has been a passionate space lover. And I was like, wow, this is so good.
it is. It is. I'm looking forward to that for sure. I know I got on a knot thing on Pinterest, and even Pinterest, there was all kinds of knots that I saw come across. So I was looking, I don't even remember what the knot was that I was looking for, but it was so
Trust me, I was trying to do a slip knot. Okay. I thought that was easy until I tried to do it. And that was hysterical. I mean, and then I thought, and it's going to be flying around like oh, we're done. We're done. It's over.
well, that is going to be good. We're definitely need to promote that for sure. So I look forward to that.
Well, we're just my newest I'm a passionate person, and I've known AI is coming for a very long time, and I'm now down the ChatGPT rabbit hole.
Oh, I haven't gone down there yet, but I know what it is you're talking
Izzy.
about. I've heard.
Well, I mean, let's go to a finality of marketing, which is what you're doing so well, and and getting the word out. And I mean, I think realistically, we all think of marketing in different ways. Marketing is a podcast, marketing is grassroots, marketing is showing up. I tell
Marketing
people,
is everything.
yeah.
It's the way you smell, it's the way you act, it's it's the clothes, your website. It is everything, and it's your speeches that you give at events. A lot of people think that marketing is just sales or it's just advertising, but it is awareness and relationships that
Oh,
you
it's
build.
yeah. I mean, you just said it. It's relationships number one, and then the awareness that the relationship is real too.
Yes.
You
And
know,
if you
Ooh.
don't market, nobody knows you exist. So yeah, that's kind of the theme to my speech next week. But
Okay, well, I couldn't agree more. How's that?
very good.
And I say, a quote that I've been is show up,
Yes,
be there.
it's not all
Don't have
digital.
force, don't have 4 screens going while you're trying to tell somebody about what you do. And if you do, apologize profusely.
Well, and content that, like I said, you said the little rabbit hole. Yeah, that is definitely important for developing content to help get the word out there, because content is heavy. To generate enough content to where people can find you, and I believe in education-based marketing. That is my thing.
Oh, awesome. So please borrow STEM edutainment,
Yes, definitely,
because that
definitely.
is it's experiential. These kids, that's how they're existing. It's amazing to me.
Well, and it's not new. Like NASA, that's how NASA was able to get the Apollo program off the ground, is they had hands-on things that they were able to go out and introduce people to what a rocket was, and you were able to meet the astronauts. The tools, they change. It's the relationships. That's the key to success, regardless of what the tools do. So it's the relationships. And we had a relationship with those astronauts. I mean, you technically did, but
Right. No, but everybody did. I mean, and that was
everybody
part of
did.
the media that brought that, going to the marketing. The media marketed the program, and they cared about it, and it wasn't fake news, and it wasn't just some talking head. It was somebody you cared about.
Yeah,
Uh,
and when they went
or
to the
invested
moon,
in.
like with Inspiration 4, when they went to orbit, we didn't watch them go. We went with them. And that's
Absolutely.
the difference. That's the relationship, and that's the power. And regardless of whether it's radio, TV, however you meet them, the tools will change. as we go through, but the relationship, that's the key to marketing.
And now I think it's the relationship and the story you tell with the
Oh,
relationship.
absolutely. Yes.
But it's the story we have to tell. One of the things with this artificial intelligence is I hope it helps us tell
Tell our
edited
story.
stories better, and I have a lot of stories to tell, but I'm one of those dyslexics, so writing for me is excruciating. So
this is a key.
Oh, I'm seriously, I learned about it in December. Nobody allowed me near it until January. I went down the rabbit hole. I'm done. I'm paying the $20 without even thinking about it. And done.
Okay.
Which to me was, as a media person, back to marketing and the point of view of you're just saying, you also have to know when you're saying the relationships, when they're getting old,
Yes.
when they're tired, when they need a refresh.
Yes.
And search needed a refresh. This was what the refresh is. This is the disruptor of this new world, marketing, writing, fake.
Yeah, it's a game changer for sure on so many different levels.
And for you, for what you do, Izzy, in so many levels, what you're working on a daily basis with Kentucky and all the wonderful things you're pulling together, the information now that we can actually, it's 2 point. It's teaching it. So we better be teaching it the right information.
Yes. And
Okay.
it will change how we teach and what we
Correct.
teach. But
we are teaching this artificial intelligence, and what to me, we're having a quick discussion about policy, but we're changing everything.
And it's inevitable. Change is good. And some of it needs to be changed. Some of it is broken and needs to be changed. So, but I'm looking forward to it. So let's go on to the next thing is you will be speaking at the conference this year with me, and your session is going to be sports and fun. So the conference for everybody listening out there is on April 28th in Los Angeles. So we hope to see you there. So
yes, and there'll be some little exhibits right around the conference, and one of them is Zero Gordian. So you'll be able to sign up and play Zero Gordian, but you can only do it at the conference. I'm sorry, you can't do it online yet. It's just for the VIPs at the Space Tourism Conference. So
I have two questions. One of them is if you were to look into a crystal ball at the space industry, the space tourism industry, which sports is a part of that industry, in say the next 10 to 20 years, and let's focus on 10 because I know we have so many space tourism things that are getting ready to happen in the next couple of years. It's goosebumpy. But so where do you see your part of the industry in about 10 years?
We hope to be the Olympics of space in 10 years, but like it started in the Roman times, because it started with things that we didn't know, and they evolved, and the games evolved, and that's what has to happen. Is Zero Gordian still going to play? What are the new games going to play as the new stadiums arrive for us, and how do we adapt the teams and the leagues and the diversity? I see that for us as being and making sure that we're actually creating new jobs, and we're creating new curriculum with space athletics. So, when we're talking about blessedly all these metaverses and everything else, we still got to get people up. All right.
Yes. And moving.
Yeah. And more importantly, what people must understand, and my humble as a space person, if you don't move in space, you atrophy.
Yes.
You essentially go, the movies, that's why we write about the movies like this, because you actually literally can do that if you don't keep moving your body and letting the fluids flow. You're gonna
it's not going to be good for you. The astronauts,
we've seen enough videos.
Yes, the astronauts have to, I think, exercise 1 hour to 2 hours a day.
Correct.
And just to maintain, and they still
Correct.
lose bone loss.
Correct. And they have to, the boredom of just doing that, walking it, so if we can add some entertainment and tie them to earth and education for space athletics, where space athletics is basically the old-fashioned, I don't know, we called it PE in my day, so old. But you know,
but it's a win-win-win-win-win-win
right. So I'm hoping in
situation.
10 years that, you know, I don't get in a cab. I go, you know, one of the founders of Space Games Federation. Really? Oh my goodness, my kids love it. It's amazing. They've learned so much. That would be 10 years from now. That would be really something that would make me so happy.
Oh, that's an awesome thing. So, okay, so the final question of the evening is, what thoughts do you want to leave our audience with today? What do you want them to think about as they go about the rest of their
Oh,
day?
I can easily say that, Izzy, because it's something I want everybody to think about every day, which is space is equal space. And it's been equal peaceful space. And let's look up there and all the crap and the junk. I go back to Cernan saying one of the promises I made him is to clean up the space junk and put no more up there.
Yeah,
I want people to realize that what we've done to our planet, we are also doing to our existing space. And if we do that, we aren't going to be able to get out. We're
right.
going to create it. So I want people to have a respect that we've started to become aware of on Earth for space today. We've got a chance to fix it there. And I also want people to remember a term that came up with a long time ago that revisited me when we were trying to get or we still are, see the International Space Station receive a Nobel Peace Prize, because it really does deserve one.
Absolutely.
You know, I want people to look at that. Yes, I have sports in space, but the reality of it is because it's equality, it's a new beginning, and we shouldn't trash it. And we really literally are.
Let's do it different this time.
Yes. And the most important thing is we have the opportunity.
We are more evolved, so let's act like it.
From your lips to God's ears, young lady.
All righty. Well, is there anything else you want to touch on before we
Thank you,
close?
Izzy. No, Izzy, thank you so much for listening, and for your listeners, and you know, sign up for the newsletter, follow, like Space Games Federation. We're not overdoing anything. We're moving slowly but surely, because space is not easy.
No, it is not. But that's one of the things that drive us to it as well, is because we really don't like easy. And that's one of the things in sports. If it was easy,
Oh God, well, everybody
it
would
wouldn't
make
be
the
fun.
NFL. We'd all be going to the Super Bowl on Sunday, okay?
It wouldn't be fun. If we were playing, grade 1 level video games, they wouldn't be fun. So we like hard.
Yes,
That drives us to be better.
I couldn't say it better, Izzy, and I can't thank you. And I can't wait to see you.
Oh, definitely. We can, now
As
we
they
know each
say,
other
IRL.
in real life. Yes. And you will be happy to know that the space debris, it was a very big point at the conference that I was just at for the FAA transportation. That was one of the things that is top of the discussion is, what do we do with this? And there's all kinds of new things getting ready to happen in that. They've got some companies that they've learned how to 3D print in space. And so they're going to be able to take the junk and recycle it. So it's already up there. All the energy to get it there is already there.
Oh, absolutely.
So let's make parts and things that we need for it. So that just seems like a no-brainer to me. And
well, and also the replicators on Moonbase.
Yes.
They're going to turn all because, okay, so back to exactly what you're saying, Izzy. Guess what we're going to do? Any of our equipment needs to be up there is printed from all the recycled stuff that's up there. So you're right in our world space. And
very good.
As a lady from the entertainment business, I'm already having words with the satellite manufacturers going, ladies and gentlemen,
we got to be sustainable.
Yeah, I mean, come on, there's got to be a solution here.
And there is. We just,
there's many solutions.
We've gotten so used to just throwing stuff away and it being out of sight, out of mind, that we've gotten to where we don't use reuse things because we haven't had to. But me, that's almost like a challenge sometimes because there's so many
It's
things
an
you can
awesome
make.
challenge. I think it's an awesome challenge. I
It
mean, all of
is.
my second cousins are, I leave you with one thing. It's that old word, which was off the earth for the earth.
Yes.
That's what NASA was founded on. That's what Space Games is founded on. That's exactly what you're talking about. It's not about replacing Earth. I know some people have been quoted, say that, but it really isn't. Those of us, as you're saying, who love space and want to see a change, it's off the Earth for the Earth.
Yes. And, the ISS, I mean, the stuff that's come from the ISS we use in our daily lives. And like climate crisis. I heard a quote this week that I think was fabulous, that they talk about, some people say, well, when it comes to money, we have things down here we need to spend money on, like the climate crisis. And they look at them and they say, we wouldn't know about the climate crisis if it wasn't for our presence in space. So
you would be at this conference on MapQuest if you weren't there for space. It's called GPS, and it was
GPS. Oh my gosh, we could go through a whole different conversation on GPS because of the stuff. I mean, it does more than just get you where you need to go. GPS is awesome.
Experiential learning.
Yes.
Because I was experiential learning, I am not afraid of any of the technology. To me, it's like, oh, it's a new experience. Just like you said, it brings you adrenaline, it brings me adrenaline because you're just saying it. You learned about all these amazing new texts that are coming out that can help us.
Life is too short to be bored.
Oh, I'm with you there.
And we don't know when we're going to go. And I may not have been through the same things as you, but I've been through some things very similar. And when you almost die from something, life, you grab it and you milk it for everything you can, and you want to make a difference while you're here, and because you don't know if you're going to be able to do it tomorrow, because sometimes you can't.
No, it's an opportunity.
Yes. And
right.
I so appreciate you meeting with me today. So it's
Izzy, it's been a ball. Thank you so much, and thank you for your time and your interest, and bravo on all you're doing in Kentucky too.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, like I said, we're shining our light. Please like and subscribe to this podcast before you head on over to the YouTube channel for bonus footage. Links to the YouTube and other social media channels can be found on spacemarketingpodcast.com. A special thanks to Linda Rheinstein with Space Games Federations, who will be speaking at the Space Tourism Conference April 28th in Los Angeles, for joining us today and sharing her journey to space. Be sure to check out her links listed in today's show notes. I hope that you have found this podcast useful for your journey as you reach for the stars.